Hello, hello, over the bar listeners. This is Ciarán here. I'm joined by none other than Michael Foley. Mick, how are things?
Good, Ciarán. Good. How are you?
Not bad. We're breaking with convention. We're in pre the music. We're interrupting our regular programming to bring a vital public service message to our listeners. A great opportunity to say, as always, thanks for listening. Like, rate, subscribe, share, all the good things that we ask you to do. But the reason that we are interrupting our usual schedule is because this weekend coming, if you were listening in the second week of January, the All-Ireland Club finals are on. And Mick, that gave us an opportunity to take an episode that we had recorded for our Cork members some time back and perhaps give our regular listeners an example of the type of programs that are there for Cork members, but specifically because Dingle are playing in the All-Ireland Club football final and they're particularly relevant to the story.
They certainly are. Yeah, exactly. So people will have heard us banging on at the end of these episodes about Cork clubs and whatever, less than the cost of a match program to access members' episodes.
Hey, don't diminish the slick sales pitch there.
You're right. I really downplaying your Mad Men Don Draper approach to selling subscriptions. Sorry, I take it all back. But as you say, exactly, one of the ones. Actually, this is one of the first episodes we actually ever recorded. It's going right back.
Yeah.
It's so, and in fact, if people are listening, you can take a wild guess at when it was recorded. There's one or two clues here and there. But as you say, the question at the time was why. What was it? Sorry, what was the question, Ciarán?
What Michael was reaching for there, the question was, why did Kerry wear Cork jerseys?
Yes,
in the 1939
exactly.
All-Ireland final.
All-Ireland final. Yes.
So this is the first time that we'll have seen Dingle via Cork jerseys in an All-Ireland final since 1939, and that is the reason that we've elected to pull this one from our large Cork catalogue.
Thank you, Ciarán. Thank you for clarifying that for everybody out there and for me as well. But you know what? Like I declare the interest in the episode, but I live in Dingle now. So, and you know what I'm talking about. Like the vibe of an All-Ireland club football final when it hits a town or a community or a parish. It's like I've never lived in a place where an All-Ireland club final is to be played, and it's amazing, really. It's so different. It might sound like I'm stating the obvious, but it's so different to an All-Ireland inter-county final. You know, the feeling of the whole thing, the excitement. You know, you can, the sort of, it really does feel like, the way
everybody knows somebody personally on the team, if not several. Yeah,
exactly. Like we always talk about how close our heroes are to us in the GA. Well, these are like right down the road. They're across the road. We see them. We say hello, best of luck, whatever. All of that. I mean, you guys have had that. Like your club is Kiltane up in Mayo. You guys have had this experience.
Yeah, not in a senior final yet.
No. Give it time.
But we did appear in an intermediate final some years back, and it was morale boosting would be an understatement for the emphasis it had on the community at the time.
It's magic. It really is magic. And I mean, it's possibly no harm to keep that in the back of the mind. That's the feeling in Dingle right now. It's just this feeling of excitement and anticipation and just sheer kind of amazement that this is happening on one level. And then just the hope, But so we recorded this way back. Exactly. Why were Kerry wearing the Cork jerseys in the 1939 All-Ireland final? It's a good yarn. It's a great yarn, even
it's
without the context of this
one. And the fact that we keep referencing Cork in what is a trinity involving Kerry and Dingle should give you a sense that this is not a straight road, folks. So that's why we're interrupting the regular schedule. We hope you enjoy it. We certainly enjoyed doing it. We were grateful to Joe Ó Muircheartaigh for joining us for it. And we are still on the topic of jerseys when you rejoin us next week, because we will, due to popular demand, well, people replying to a poll Mick put up on Twitter,
some time ago,
or the artist formerly known as Twitter, We will be explaining the history of that iconic GAA jersey, that of the Barrowsiders, the Carlow jersey. We'll be explaining the story of that jersey next week. So until then, enjoy this episode. Mick, enjoy the trip to Croker, and we'll chat to you all next week.
Since the dawn of the GAA in 1884, the telling of its stories have been just as important as the sports. Through the years, heroes and matches have been immortalised, inspiring generation after generation. But some of its most important stories have also gotten lost or turned into legend. And in this series, we will explore some of the GAA's most fascinating forgotten tales, separating rumour from reality and myth from the truth that is often more amazing than the fiction. I'm Michael Foley.
And I'm Ciarán O'Hara.
So join us for Over the Bar, exploring the histories of the GAA.
Welcome to episode 6 of Over the Bar, the Gaelic Games History Podcast. This is a Cork Club exclusive. We referenced in our last episode, Michael, that Kerry once won an All-Ireland in Cork colours.
Yeah. It's nice. I suppose, in a way, if you can't get there yourself, it's nice at least have your jerseys there, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is a particularly long and winding story, and you do need an old bit of West Kerry Shanachus or Sonolachus to get you through this one, and I'm delighted to say we've got with us to take us through the story of how Kerry came to win an All-Ireland in Cork jerseys, Joe Ó Muircheartaigh.
Yeah. Joe's great. He's an author, journalist, broadcaster, and as you say, you're in your beautiful North Mayo Irish there, Sanoli. So we had a chat with Joe a little while back. See, can you actually date it? See, can you get within a couple of weeks of when this chat was had? There's a clue or two as we're going along. But on top of being an author, a journalist, Ciarán, a broadcaster, and as I say, a proper Sanoli on this particular topic, Joe's a dub, but he's down in West Kerry, and with a name like Ó Muircheartaigh, people are probably starting to join the dots here a little bit. But I think we'll let Joe explain exactly where he's from and what he's all about. Joe Ó Muircheartaigh, welcome to the show. Great to have you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Michael.
We should probably, before we go any further, when we're discussing Dingle-related sporting affairs, particularly Gaelic football, we should declare our, I wouldn't say, well, not in my case, geographical bias anyway, but our geographical situations, shall we say. Both of us are in West Kerry. I'm a Cork man. I'm not here that long. I'm only getting my wits about me in Dingle. And any listeners who maybe heard your surname, Ó Muircheartaigh, and they start joining dots, you've got West Kerry roots, but they're a little more nuanced, I would say, maybe from your side of things.
Yeah, like I'm Dublin born, but of West Kerry stock, really. My father from Doonsheen, just near the racetrack there, which is in Ballintaggart, and my uncle Michal from there, and that's the Moriarty angle. And then from my mother's side, she's from Mounaskal, the home of one of the Kerry greats, Paddy Kennedy. I think her mother was a Kennedy, so related to the Kennedys, even though there are a lot of Kennedys in Mounaskal, but there is a connection there. So, but her family would have originally come from her father from Gaeltacht country in Latív, which is on the road to the Gaeltacht pitch in Gallerus. And I'm living now back in Ballinangowl. I have a house here, and I've been working and living here for the last number of years. So I suppose I've come back to where my roots are, and loving it really, I suppose.
So when it comes to it, though, and it often comes to it, between the Dubs and Kerry, where do we situate you?
Well, you know what? It's a kind of long, twisted, and complicated story. I would have been kind of going to and fro over the years. I was very, very young during those kind of the rivalry of the Kerry Dublin in the 1970s, and it changed from one year to the next, if the truth be told. But in recent years, I suppose, having come to actually work in Kerry, I think the dub in me kind of came out and found expression in a few All Irelands, most notably back in '23 when there was one when Dublin won one against the Head, even though it was the ninth one since 2011, but they wouldn't have been favourites, and they beat Kerry that day, who were trying to defend their title. So I would say at this stage, I'm delighted to be living back in West Kerry and love West Kerry football, be it the Gaeltacht, be it Dingle, be it West Kerry as a whole. But the Dublin roots are there. But when it comes to the big games in Croke Park, blue would be the colour.
Yeah. I can sympathise with that. All right, I can empathise with that for sure. Ciarán, you've got some Kerry, but like as the male sort of wing of this, like I mean, I found this story.
I was
Dingle.
wondering, should I declare my interest that
Yeah.
I did spend a time living in Dingle, but
yeah, go on. Do you want to talk about that time in
no,
Dingle, or is that one that we just move on?
I really think everyone in Dingle would prefer if I didn't.
But like, as far as I was concerned, coming into this, well, like when I saw this, that why did Kerry wear, in inverted commas, Cork jerseys when they won in 1939 Ireland? I was hooked. I know Joe has written really well and extensively on it in the past. What's the draw for you? Why are you allowing us to do this, basically?
For me, this is just the glorious thing of, you're looking for that question that we can lead everybody in. And I want to know how they let the rebels in the kingdom.
Good question. They're still doing it to this very day. Here I am.
Well, one of the greatest of all Kerry players, of course, was a Cork man, and he would have been playing on that team in 1939. Dan O'Keefe, originally from Fermoy, went to live in Tralee and he won 7 All-Irelands, I think, from 31 to 46. So he was a Cork man, but became a naturalised.
So you're going to be run out of West Kerry between the Dublin flag and now one of the greats is a Cork man. This is going to stun far too many people.
But there was a lot of traffic in the other direction, it must be said. Kerry men who would have won All Irelands for Cork. Like there was, I know John Cronin won one for Kerry, but his brother Jim, I think, was on the 45 Cork team, and there was people like that. There was always that flow, I suppose, of work, really, because people would have gone to the city and joined clubs, that be it in the army, or a few of them were in the guards, and they would have thrown in their lot with Cork. So there has been traffic in that direction as well.
Yeah, it goes both ways. I think we all get we'll get something good out of this transaction.
But the thing for me is, having spent some time in Dingle, the jersey is a red jersey with a white band. So that's my first question. When did Cork stop having the banded jersey?
Well, from my knowledge of this story anyway, it goes back to, I suppose, in the early 1930s, there was a man called Jimmy McKenna. There's a drapery store. It's still in Dingle on Dykegate Street there, McKenna's, and it's been there for the guts of 100 years now. But Jimmy McKenna, his father operated that business back then. But Jimmy went to Cork, as you did, even though if you had a drapery store in those days, you had to serve your time. It's the word that I came across, indentured or whatever, it's an effective apprenticeship. And he went to the King's Old Castle in Cork to do that apprenticeship, to become a draper. I suppose ultimately to learn his way and ultimately take over McKenna's shop in Dykegate Street in Dingle, which he did. And while he was down there, I'd say sometime in the early 30s, Cork used to get their jerseys from King's Old Castle, and Jimmy was dispatched with, I don't know where Cork had their county board HQ back in those days, but to bring the jerseys to the Cork county board. Who knows what it could have been? It could have been for an All-Ireland final. You would never know. But anyway, by all accounts, the jerseys weren't up to scratch, and they weren't considered good enough for the Rebels, so they didn't accept them. So Jimmy went back with the jerseys, and they were still in their package, and they were effectively put into cold storage. It could have been for a number of years. And time marched on then, and Jimmy was back in Dingle. He was a very good footballer. He was captain of actually the Dingle team that won the county championship in 1938, which gave them the captaincy the following year. But he was also the secretary of the club. And in those years, in the early 1930s, the team that would have played in the county senior championship in Kerry, it was a West Kerry team. But then from 34, 35 onwards, there was a Dingle team, a Dingle town team, and there was also a Gaeltacht team. Like the Gaeltacht, the first iteration of the Gaeltacht that we know today would have been in the 30s. They would have played in the senior championship from 34 to 40 before lack of numbers caused them to fade away, and they would have played them with Dingle. But they'd no jerseys. This Dingle team had no jerseys, and between committee meetings and talking about it, Jimmy, as club secretary, persuaded them, why don't we go for the red and white? Because maybe at the back of it all, he had something in his count that was saying, if it's red and white, I might be able to get those jerseys, if they're still there, down in Cork. So lo and behold, the club agreed that red and white would be the colour. They had been in a county final back in the 20s and won in the early part of the century as well, but hadn't won it. I don't know what the jerseys were then, but they went for the red and white, and Jimmy went down to Cork, back to his old place of employment, got the jerseys, and they were the jerseys that were worn when Dingle made their breakthrough. Like you talk about Dingle as a force back then. They've been knocking on the door now for in the present time, they've been in 3 county finals since 2012, haven't managed to win one. But back then, from 37 to 48, they were in 9 county finals. 10 if you count one went to a replay, which is some record. They won 6 of them, and the first one they won was in 1938. And Jimmy, he was on the team, and he was captain of the team, and he was also the club secretary. They'd been in the final the previous year against the famous one of the famous Tralee teams, John Mitchell's, and they hadn't managed to score in that final. I think the score was 1-3 to no score. But back they came the following year.
God, did they not bring in a football review committee after that?
I'd say so. Well, put it this way: if it was in Mayo, the manager wouldn't have lasted that, But anyway, so they came back stronger than ever and made the breakthrough in 38. They beat a North Kerry selection in that final, and so began the greatest ever era. And in 38 and 39 and 40, they were beaten in 39 by Rahilly's in a replay, and 40 they beat Rahilly's. That was a Dingle team per se. The subsequent county finals that they won in the 41 and 43, 44 and 48, they had lads from west of Milltown Bridge playing with them.
What we would now know as un-Gaeltacht territory.
Yes, they would have had people playing for them, like Dan Kavanagh, a famous Kerry footballer who played in All-Ireland for Galway. He was from back in Doon Queen, and he would have been on one of those teams in the 40s and people like that. But the original team, 38, that made the breakthrough, and again when they won in 40, they were Dingle teams. And by virtue of winning, it's still the custom in Kerry. Like a few weeks ago, Gavin White, Captain Kerry, to win the All-Ireland, he got the captaincy, was conferred upon him because Dr. Crokes beat Dingle in the county final last year, so they had the captaincy. Gavin White was the man. So in 1939, Kerry had Dingle had the captaincy, and Sean Brosnan was the captain. He was from Strand Street, another man with Cork connections. He became a TD in Cork and a senator, and he was a member of the European Parliament, the first European Parliament, but he was the captain in 39, and they won the Munster final. and then they qualified for the All-Ireland final, and they were playing Meath in the final, and that's when the jersey thing comes into the equation, really, because the clash of colours, like the Donegal Kerry All-Ireland, go back to 82. Michael, you've written about the 82 final. Kerry and Offaly, they changed their jerseys. Kerry wore green, and Offaly wore what the
kind of white with
yeah.
green and
The
what was it,
Offaly
yellow on the
jersey
shoulders.
is the Offaly jersey of that year is one of the best
Oh,
Gaelic
it's beautiful.
football jerseys of all
Yeah.
time.
I'm sure didn't it become was it like the international rules jersey subsequently in
In
84?
84, yeah.
That's so nice.
An iconic jersey.
But was it not? Wait, so I'm confused now because we have always had provincial colours, have we not?
Yeah, like Kerry would have
Since.
played. Yeah, Kerry would have played Offaly and Meath in the 69 and 70 All Irelands, and there would have been the clash there. But it was and they played Offaly again in 72, and it was the provincial colours they wore. But for some reason in 39 they didn't, and the main reason was because of Jimmy McKenna, really, the man who got the jerseys day one from Cork. He was the club secretary, and they got to the final. He wrote a letter to say that we want to wear the Dingle jerseys. We won the county championship. We have the captaincy. There's a clash of colours. We're the county champions. You should be wearing our jerseys in the final. And by all accounts, the county board weren't in favour of this, but then Dingle were prepared to, or Jimmy McKenna was prepared to go the nuclear option and say that we won't be playing, the Dingle players won't be playing. And they had a sizable contingent in that squad. There was Bill Dillon, wing back, Billy Casey from Lisbole, who played with Dingle, he was centre back. Tom Gega O'Connor from Goat Street in Dingle, he was centre forward, and Sean Brosnan was midfield, the captain. And you would have had subs like Paddy Bawn Brosnan was a sub, so they were backboning the Kerry team effectively. And so the county board blinked and they went for the jerseys, and they were the jerseys that they wore in the final.
It's extraordinary. Like, you come across these stories from an era. I mean, that just, you can't imagine that happening now for a start, for all sorts of different reasons. But even reading through the coverage of the week coming up, there's only kind of passing references to the fact that that Kerry will wear the Dingle red and white jerseys. Like, obviously it was a bigger controversy behind the scenes than it was in the general, conversation coming into the All Ireland.
Absolutely. I'd say that it was controversial, but I suppose the press, the newspapers of the day, there wouldn't have been that much coverage in the papers anyway. And bear in mind as well, most of the coverage that would have been given to the All Ireland would have appeared in the local papers, really. And in the Kerry Man, the man who was writing it happened to be a Dingle man as well, a namesake of your own, Michael, the legendary PF, Paddy Foley. He was a selector with Kerry in the 20s when they made the breakthrough and won the 24 All-Ireland that started a golden era from 24 to 32.
Here now, this is just the propaganda wing of Kerry football.
So he was writing in the Kerry Man from the 20s. He was still there in the 1960s. He wrote a book in the 40s, The Story of Kerry Football, PF. That was his pen name. So most of the newspaper coverage would have been in the Kerry Man. The reference to the jerseys, the pen pictures for the players. I'm sure that they were in the national papers as well at the weekend, but the majority of the coverage would have been in the Kerry Man, and there was a Dingle man responsible for that coverage. So I suppose...
And given, I mean, whatever we do know about the type of people who were involved, the type of characters that were involved, do you think that if they had been pushed, they would have stayed at home? Do you ever get a sense of that down the years, that these fellas they wouldn't have gone?
Well, you have to look at it. It was a very, very volatile time, even though Kerry, that was a great Kerry team. Like, they won the All Ireland in 37, beaten in a replay in 38, and then they won 3 in a row and beaten in a semi-final in 42. And there was controversy all the way, really. Like in 35, Kerry decided they weren't going to play because they were in 35. The whole controversy, the Republican split, the split post Civil War had erupted again because people were being interned in Tralee in the 30s, and there was a number of prominent football families in Tralee with the Stacks and Kearns O'Reillys. They would have had people interned in 1935, and all the clubs in Tralee made a conscious decision that they weren't going to play club football or inter-county football, and as a result, Kerry didn't field in 35. Tipperary won Munster that year. The next Munster title they won was in 2020, but they didn't.
Cork couldn't even get the job done then, no.
No, so they came back in 36.
Oh, thank God, because I just thought Mayo's first All-Ireland was about to be diminished.
No, they came back in 36, and it was actually funny. With the whole current Mayo situation, and people were. I was in a conversation a few weeks ago about how unlucky this great Mayo team that was there in the last 10 years was, and people were saying, you know what, that game in Limerick should never be played there. That was the one, that replay in Limerick, and you'd have to agree. You know what? Playing it in Limerick didn't seem fair in Limerick, but I found out subsequently, I wish I knew the night I was having the conversation, that in 36, Kerry went to Hyde Park to play Mayo in the All-Ireland semi-final, and Mayo beat them, and Mayo got their All-Ireland, so they couldn't really complain with that knowledge. But Kerry, in 36, after being beaten by Mayo, they came back again, and the golden era started. They beat Cavan in a replay in 37, but then in 38, another replay against Galway, and that was a famous one. There was a drawn game, and I became friendly with him subsequently, a guy who played in that Kerry team. He was from Tralee, from Listowel, Tony McAuliffe, and he was telling me that the referee blew his whistle as he'd given the ball to John Joe Purty Landers, a famous player, and the ball was sailing over the bar. The whistle went a draw, not a win for Kerry. But then the replay came around a few weeks later in 38, and a number of the Kerry team, a cornerstone of that Kerry team, even though he was still very young, was Joe Ó. He was full-back from the Mitchells Club in Tralee, but he was in Dublin and he was in the civil service, and there was some row over travel expenses coming down for training. So he refused to play the replay. Kerry, and there was Mort Kelly didn't play either. He was a teacher based in Dublin. There was a row. But then the game, Galway were leading the replay. The whistle went and the crowd rushed the field and people thought the game was over. But it wasn't. After the crowd was dispersed, 4 or 5 of the Kerry team had left. They'd left the ground. So Keohane and a few others who had played into Croke Park ended up playing the last few minutes of the All-Ireland. They lost it. But there was controversy there that year.
Whoa. So they bought tickets to go to watch the game.
Yes.
And they ended up playing the last few minutes.
They ended up playing the last few minutes because it's said that some of the West Kerry players, as in the Dingle players, after the whistle went, and they were being well beaten by Galway. There was 5 or 6 points in it at least, and the game time was nearly up. And so they said, we've had enough, we're out of here. So they left, and then to finish the game, Joe Ó came on and Mort Kelly and a few more, so that Kerry had 15 to finish out the game. So it was controversial.
In what? Like, did he play in his civvies?
No, he togged out. He was given something and he togged out. That's the story goes. There was a book brought out a number of years ago, kind of by the Irish Independent, that looked back on All Irelands, and there was a detail, a description of how it happened and that this happened. So that's a long-winded answer to say, would they have not turned up? It could well have happened. And in 42, then 3 years after that, Dingle proved that maybe they would have done that. Because bear in mind, in 42, they had the captain again. Tom Gegg O'Connor was captain because they won the county final in 41. They won Munster. They were playing the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway. They were going for the 4 in a row. to try to emulate the team of 29 to 32. But the week of the semi-final against Galway, Sean Brosnan, he was dropped. He was a midfield man, a great player. He was dropped. And to push it, basically, really, some of the Dingle players didn't take this too kindly. Namely, Billy Casey, the centre-back, Bill Dillon, the wing-back, Sean Brosnan himself, who'd been dropped, and Paddy Bawn Brosnan. So that's 4 Dingle men. They didn't travel. They didn't go to the All-Ireland semi-final. Tom Gegg O'Connor did. He was captain. He was the only one. And they were beaten by Galway in the semi-final by 1-3 or something like that. And then Dublin, a Dublin team that included a Dingle man, Mick Falvey midfield, and he was with a fellow West Kerry man from Ballynaowl, Joe Fitzgerald, who captained the team. They were midfield. They beat Galway in the final. So maybe Dingle would have done that in 39 again. We don't know. So that's why maybe it was controversial times in Kerry football, even though they were hugely successful. Obviously, a lot of big characters, that would have been prepared to do that. So that's why maybe in 39 the Kerry County Board said, yes, we'll go for it. And another thing that I forgot to mention, and Ciarán, you're going to start laughing at this again, in 39, not the team picture where they're wearing the jerseys, but in an official photograph after that, all the team are there and they're tugged out in the green and gold this time. But front and centre in the picture is a famous figure in Kerry football again, Canon Thomas Lyne. He'd be an uncle of the famous Jackie Lyne, Denny Lyne, and Father Mikey Lyne, who all won All-Irelands with Kerry. But he was a priest in Dingle. And he was there, and he became president of the Kerry County Board. Even at that time, I think he was heavily involved in the Kerry County Board. So maybe the pressure came on from there as well. And also in that team photograph of the players in their Kerry jerseys after 39, who's in the picture right beside Paddy Kennedy, the bowl Jimmy McKenna. They're the secretary of the club who got the jerseys in the first place. He's there. He's not in a jersey. He's in civvies, but obviously he'd some link with the county board as well because he's there in the photograph. So Dingle certainly seemed to have a bit of clout in the late 30s, and maybe that's why they got their way.
Love GAA history? Then you love going deeper with Over the Bar's Cork Club membership. For just €5 a month, you'll get exclusive member-only episodes and series, early ad-free access to the main podcast, plus detailed show notes, a newsletter, and the chance to have your questions answered. Join Michael Foley and Ciarán O'Hara as they uncover the stories, the legends, and the questions that shaped our games. Don't just listen, be part of the club. Join now at overthebar.club.
But this is Jimmy's drop mic moment, isn't it? He's absolutely smashed the Cork County Board here. The jerseys were not good enough for them, but Kerry can win an All-Ireland in them.
Yes, and I suppose absolutely. And I suppose they probably got them for nothing or else for knockdown price, I suppose. And in the straitened times of the 1930s, there wasn't much money going around, I would say, at the time. So it probably made good economic sense for the secretary of the club to say, listen, I can get these jerseys. I can get them on the cheap. I don't know why Cork didn't want them, but we'll take them. Little did he know then that they'd go on to win an All-Ireland. But first of all, they went to win the county championship for Kerry in 38, and I suppose they're famous jerseys.
And like they go on, obviously, as we've kind of intimated, and they beat Meath in the jerseys. I think it's 3-5 to 3-3, so it's a tight one. But
FRC might be slightly happier. The goal count is up.
Yes,
and the man who got the two of the goals, Dan Spring, father of Dick Spring and Donald Spring, the rugby player, he was full forward. He got 2-2 in that final, so he was the match winner. And there's another story as well. Sean Brosnan, as it turned out, the captain of the team, the future TD, senator and member of the European Parliament, he fell ill on the morning of the game. So he couldn't play. So the captaincy went to Tom Gegga O'Connor. Now, he wasn't yet 21. he even though he'd won an All Ireland in 37 as an 18-year-old. That was a replay. He just turned 18, I think. So he was just 20 years of age in 1939. The youngest ever man to captain Kerry to win the All Ireland. He was the captain, and there was a great picture. I think it was in the Irish press a few days afterwards. The Kerry team, they were staying that time in a hotel in Dunleary, and they all went out, and Sean Brosnan was in his sick bed. I think he got flu or pneumonia maybe. He was in his bed, and all the Kerry team are around him with the Sam Maguire. So they went back to the captain with the cup after beating Meath in the final. So it was a great story. And it didn't really end there for Dingle, because there was also the homecoming to Dingle, which was a famous night.
Serious shades of Mickey Ned being visited by Pat Spillane after Pat Spillane picked up the cup.
Absolutely.
75,
yeah.
True.
And that was it. And I suppose that was the start of it for Dingle, really, because they also had the captain in 41, Bill Dillon. He was the captain. He was from Green Street. Tom Gegg O'Connor was from Goat Street, just up the road, and Sean Brosnan, who was captain in 39, he was from Strand Street, and Paddy Bawn Brosnan, he went on to captain Kerry in an All Ireland final as well in 44 when they were beaten by Roscommon. So they had some record in those years.
Some record, and just even the names that you mentioned Joe Ó there before as well. I mean, a huge player for Kerry. He was selected with Dwyer in the 70s and well, certainly the 70s, early 80s, very prominent Republican as well, all the way up through. You're talking, as you say, like serious characters. And the thing that interested me from the conversations, the chats we were having even before this, like we're talking about a jersey, obviously, and things. It's also the Second World War has just begun. It's funny. I mean, a lot of people kind of get hooked on the Thunder and Lightning final, the All Ireland hurling final that was on the day that war broke out in Europe. But like there is a shade of it here as well, because am I right in saying that there was some Kerry players would have been there but weren't there because of their political connections that were impacting because war had begun?
Yes, absolutely. The corner forward on the Kerry team that day was Tim Landers. They were a famous family of footballers from Urban Terrace in Tralee there, as you're just up the road from Rock Street. His brother was an equally famous footballer, John Joe Purty Landers, they called him. He was interned in 39, and in the front page photograph in the Kerryman the week after they beat Meath in that final in 39, it's of the Kerry team marching behind the Artane band in Croke Park, but just behind the Artane band and in front of Gegg O'Connor, who was the captain, there was a flag being carried around the field, and it was in support of the Republican prisoners from Kerry who were in the Curragh at that time, and John Joe Purty Landers was one of them. So the politics, like it's people say that the politics was taken out of Kerry football in the 20s when they came back after the Civil War. It wasn't. It was always there. But they still managed to put teams out on the field. Yeah, the trainer of that Kerry team in 30 was Captain Con Brosnan. He would have captained Kerry to win one of the All-Irelands in 31. But like if you go back to the Civil War time, he would have been on the pro-treaty side, vehemently anti-Republican. He was in the Free State Army. So even in come to 39, like the split was there, but the power of the personalities within the Kerry dressing room, they still felt that they were able to carry a flag around Croke Park, protesting at the Republican prisoners who had been interned, as it turns out, by the Eamon De Valera government, who had been originally part of the anti-treaty as well. So it showed, I suppose, that the politics was still very much there within Kerry football. But the fact is, I suppose, that shows you the fact that they were so strong in their personalities, maybe that's why they were so good at football as well. Like the likes of John Joe Porty-Landers, he missed out on that All-Ireland final, but he would probably say, and I'm sure he did, that his Republican principles were very dear to him, and he didn't regret that he missed out on that All-Ireland final because he was interned in the Curragh for his political beliefs. And I suppose that continued in Kerry football in that time. But I suppose in 39, it's still celebrated as a famous win for Kerry, but also for Dingle, because they came back like a few weeks ago there when Kerry won the All-Ireland, and they came back to Dingle on the Tuesday, and the fife and drum band were out and the team were marched around the town, and the exact same thing happened in 39, but they had the captain. They had Tom Gegg O'Connor, who was the captain. And like I just was doing a bit of research on it, and the Cork Examiner, they had a representative there, and it's worth actually reading out what was said when the cup came back. Dingle rejoiced when the All-Ireland Championship, the Munster Championship, and the Kerry County Championship Cups were borne in a decorated cart drawn by a white horse through the streets of Dingle, followed by the Dingle fife and drum band and a torch-lit procession. Many carried red and white flags. And then I mentioned earlier Canon Tom Lyon, he was the president of Kerry GAA. He said, "This magnificent team wearing the red and white of Dingle has proved to the world that Kerry is the first football county in Éire." And then he said, "This trophy, the Sam Maguire Cup, has had many homes in its wanderings, east, west and south, but I doubt it if it ever had a more congenial or more enthusiastic welcome than this home of Gaeldom, the Dingle Peninsula." So it was a huge, huge occasion, and you could only imagine what it was like for the people of Dingle. We saw the crowds there a few weeks ago. What must it have been like for them to have seen them win it in their own Dingle jerseys? And the most of the people who were there that day, I suppose, for the homecoming, they probably weren't at the All-Ireland, because I suppose it was a long way up.
Love the free episodes of Over the Bar? Then take your passion further with the Cork Club membership. For €5 a month, you'll unlock bonus series and member-only shows, hear the podcast first and ad-free, and get behind-the-scenes access through detailed notes, a newsletter, and Q&As. It's the ultimate GAA history experience, curated by Michael Foley and Ciarán O'Hara just for you. Upgrade your listening, support the show. Join today at overthebar.club.
Ironically enough, they did get the opportunity to see it, because that month, or the following month, October 39, the Phoenix Cinema in Dingle, it's in the news at the moment because it's
now owned by Cillian Murphy.
Now owned by Cillian Murphy and his wife Yvonne McGuinness, and they're going to reopen it. But it reopened in October 1939, and they showed the Pathé News coverage of that All-Ireland, and it was on in the cinema there a few weeks later. And if I could read it out, it says All-Ireland football final. Then beside it, it has March of Time. It's on Thursday the 26th at 8:15 p.m. in the Phoenix Cinema. And the film that was on at the same time was The Crime of Dr. Hallett, and also The Flaming Frontiers, and then A Yank at Oxford. I'd safely say that for the Dingle punters, the cinema goers going to the new cinema, the most popular viewing there was watching the Pathé newsreel of Kerry winning the All-Ireland in the Dingle colours in 1939, and that's why it's famous to this day.
I'm sure they enjoyed a Yank at Oxford as well.
I'm sure
the speech Canon Lyon gave was in the Temperance Hall, am I correct?
The Temperance Hall, yeah, it's still there. They have the celebrations now on the Droichead there outside the Bridge House. And I'd say Canon Lyon, I suppose, given the power of the church at that time, the Temperance Hall, he was speaking from the window looking down on the crowd, which the Temperance Hall is at the corner of, it's at the top of Main Street, the bottom of Goat Street, and it's kind of looking down on Green Street. So it's real football country. If you know, like up the road, the captain, Tom Gegg O'Connor, the pub he actually came from a public house. I'm sure Canon Lyne was probably preaching temperance.
This is the part that amuses me, because they went straight from the Temperance Hall to local pubs.
To his pub. It's now known as Borna Shráide, but it was then known as Jimmy Tom Dix. He was one of the O'Connors, so that's where they went. So Sam Maguire went back there, and if you go in there now to Borna Shráide, there are still photographs of Gegga with the cup back in 1939, and I suppose a famous occasion. And I suppose if you look at it, a lot of them, even if Canon Lyne was preaching temperance, Paddy Bond Brosnan, years later, he had his own pub down on Strand Street there, Paddy Bond's, and it's still there to this day. And in the current generation, you have Paul Gainey. The Kerry team were in Paul Gainey's after they had their homecoming a few weeks ago, so for the celebrations, and that's all part of it too. But that jersey, the jerseys in '39, with the advance in technology and the way you can colorize photographs. There's a guy, he's actually a Waterford man, and he goes by the tagline on Twitter, "Timeless Colours." And a few years ago, I had the original black and white, and I got him to do it professionally, to colour it, and it just comes out beautifully, you know. And it's a striking picture. In the picture, they're wearing black armbands. I don't know why. Could it be in relation to the Republican prisoners? Could it be because Sean Brosnan was ill and was ill in hospital? Or was it that someone associated with Kerry football had passed away? So there are a number of theories that it could be, but they're wearing the black armbands, and they're there, proud as punch in their Kerry jerseys. And there was Dingle men playing, like Bill Casey. He was centre back, and Bill Dillon was wing back, and Paddy Bond was a sub, and Gegga was centre forward. And then Sean Brosnan unfortunately couldn't play. So they had strong representation on the team, apart from the fact that they had the captain. They were really, I suppose, the backbone of the team in that late 30s and early 40s era. And that's why I suppose they were so successful then in the county championship.
For the casual listener who has not been in Dingle, with the streets you've mentioned, they'll think Dingle is the size of Manhattan.
Yes,
give a sense of the population that they would have been picking this group of players from.
I would say that it couldn't have been more than a couple of thousand, really, even though the hinterland outside may have been bigger, but like the streets are smaller. I remember there was a famous interview when Ryan's Daughter was made in the early 70s, and John Mills was on with Gay Byrne in the Late Late Show, and he was asked about what was it like being in West Kerry, and he made some comment that the pub life was great, because at that stage there was something like 52 pubs or something in the town. It could have even been more than that. So a small town with small streets and narrow streets, but like famous streets. And I often think that given the heritage that they have in the football, like you see, and if you go into Tralee, you kind of know you're in a football town when you're going up by the Aquadome there, and you're on Dan Spring Road or Dan Spring Roundabout. There's Joe Keohane Roundabout. They have monuments that are named after the famous players that played for Kerry. Bracker O'Regan Road, he was another man in the 30s. I often think that given that Dingle produced so many from the town, that maybe outside Paddy Bond's house or Gegg O'Connor's house or Sean Brosnan's house, they should have little plaques commemorating what they did, because I suppose it adds to the heritage, because they helped put Dingle football on the map. And I suppose the current Dingle team and the current generation, they're feeding off that. They're trying desperately to win a county championship, but the players that they've produced that have won All-Irelands with Kerry, it started really started then in the 1930s, even though they had an All-Ireland winner in 1909. Bat O'Connor But his grandson was Vincent O'Connor, who was played with Kerry in the 70s and 80s. So the tradition goes on. And I often think it would be great to remember the ones who actually mapped Dingle as a force in football. And I suppose the biggest monument they have, I suppose, is those Dingle jerseys in 39. The fact that it happened, they made it happen, and then they went out and they won the game after it.
And they owe it all, as do Kerry, to the decisions of a Cork GA official. Joe, thanks a million for that. It's a fantastic story, and one that's been a real highlight for us. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ciarán and Michael. I enjoyed it, really enjoyed it.
That was fantastic. And you may have noticed a kind of a quietness about Mr. Foley towards the end of that one. The Kerry gods were not happy with you, Michael Foley. A power cut struck in the midst of your discussion about Kerry winning an All-Ireland in Cork jerseys.
Well, they're never happy with me, really. I mean, they tolerate me at best. I mean, I think that's pretty safe to say. But yeah. I'm not saying there was a conspiracy here going on with the Kerry West Kerry footballing spirits that float around the house here or come and check on me from time to time. But I'm definitely saying there was a conspiracy theory involving the West Kerry footballing spirits. It came down, power cut me off for the last however long it was there, 10 minutes. But fascinating story. And what, like, as we mentioned during it there, like, I live on the outskirts of Dingle here now, and knowing what we know now about that time, about the players, and even the homecoming. Like, I mean, my kids are in school in town here, and I drop a couple of them off more or less opposite the building where the homecoming would have been had at the Temperance Hall, and then up the road to what would have been Tom Gegga O'Connor's pub. And I can tell you, since having the conversation, you go in and you just, not every day, but the odd time you look and you go, gosh, a lot of stuff happened on these streets football wise, and a lot of great players walk these roads. And it does feed into that great tradition that Kerry have, whatever jersey they're wearing, whether it's a Cork jersey, whether it's a Dingle jersey, whether it's the old green and gold, whether it's something that was made by Adidas that they couldn't actually wear in All-Ireland final in 82, had to get one quickly made in Donegal. There is an aura and there's a tradition about them, no matter what jersey they're wearing. And just goes to show that they don't necessarily need to be wearing the green and gold, as was proved this year against Donegal, and as was absolutely proved beyond any dispute in 1939.
Yeah. It's not the jersey, it's the men that wear them.
Exactly.
So, folks, thanks again for joining us for this one. Our next episode, which will be available on early release for Cork Club members, you'll get that in your feed over the next couple of days before it's available free, and you'll get it ad-free, is on the thorny subject of sponsorship by GAA. So do look out for that one.